Hi guys, welcome back to Two Worlds Collide podcast. On today's episode, we have former paratrooper Matthew French. Matt deployed with 3RAR to Afghanistan in 2012, and after this, in 2017, he founded Veteran Mentors, which is one of the biggest youth development programs in our country. I hope you guys enjoy.
All right, here we go again. Ready? Matthew French, mate, welcome to Two Worlds Collide podcast. How you going?
I'm going great. Thanks for having me.
Mate, thanks for picking me up from the airport at 8 a.m. this morning. You also got to drop me back tomorrow at 6 a.m. So
you're a prick, mate.
Yeah. No, but thanks very much for that, mate. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate the time you've given me out of your very busy program with Veteran Mentors. Which, mate, I do want to dive into that, and I do want to dive into the nuts and nuts and bolts and what made that a program and what inspired you to make it. But we also have a military career to get through first before we get to that. So, mate, I guess the first question would be, what was your motivation around, joining the military? Why did you join the military? And then what was your motivation to also go to Afghanistan?
Success, really. I grew up in poverty, mate. Growing up, it was hard for me, in and out of housing commissions. There's a lot of drug abuse and that going on in the family, especially my father. A lot of domestic violence. He was a musician by trade. He was a drummer. Mm-hmm. His nickname, Boy Mongrel, sort of said it all, didn't it, really?
Yeah.
I grew up in a neighbourhood in an area, Erskineville, Hurstville, housing commissions, and it would be common that I'd come home from school or over the weekend that I'd see my father giving it to my mother, like
physically
abusing and mentally.
So domestic violence.
Definitely. So there's two particular stories that I remember quite vividly. One time I remember it kicked off in the bedroom, and I sort of went in to go see what's happening, and my father was on top of my mother with scissors, pushing it into a jugular, and my mother's pushing it back, and my father turned and looked back at me, and he sort of stopped. And another moment that I remember very vividly was my mother got a can of mace pepper spray from one of her friends to keep in her bag, so whenever it kicked off, she could defend herself. Mm-hmm. Now, my mother got the can. I seen the whole incident. My mother got the can out of her bag while my father was chasing her, about to hit her again, pulled it out, sprayed it in his face, and my father, it didn't stop him. My father grabbed my mother, the can of mace, ripped her hair back and emptied the whole can in her face. Now, my mother and I were in hospital for a couple of days after that.
Yeah.
That was the type of environment I grew up into about the age of 7 or 8. I used to go over to...
can I jump in? Wherever did the police ever get involved in these?
Yeah, police were involved, but my mother would never lay charges. She had the mentality that, because he was my biological father, that it'd be best for him to still be around. I'm sure, like, my mother didn't have this program that I run now when I was a child, so there would have been childhood trauma that's transferred over to her. But she is my rock. What she went through to raise me as a child is phenomenal. She did not back down. There were moments where I used to go with my father over to other women's house, and I used to get given heaps of coins to go play down at the local time zone. Now that I'm older and I look back at those instances, I knew exactly why I was getting kicked out of the house. And then we'd just drive back to my mum's, and my father would just act like as if nothing's happened.
Yeah.
And that was my life. I was very aware of the situation. I knew what was going on. I learned a lot at a young age. It wasn't until about 8 years old where my mother left that environment and moved up to the Central Coast, and that's where my mother met my stepdad, and life started to actually take off for me. We still lived in a bit of poverty.
Was he a good role model figure?
He was, in some sense, completely 110% better than my old man.
Yeah.
Okay. But there's still some problems there. Okay. But he supported me, ended up being the manager of my football team. I started to excel in football, started to excel in school. State athletics champion at school and whatnot. I really took on that athlete approach at school. Education, not so much. I did do year 12 as a child, okay, but I was just there for the fun and games, let's face it, I remember one day going to school and I wanted to quit footy for some reason, but my football coach at school, I had double English, and it was either double English or go play football, and he bring his shorts and his football boots because he has the same size as me, Mr. Hextall.
Yep.
And he come up to me and he says, mate, what do you want to do, double English or play football?
Yeah.
Well, easy choice there.
Definitely.
Yeah. So life started to improve, but I don't look as I was a victim through that period of time in my life, because there's two types of role models in your life, a negative and a positive role model. And I feel you learn more from a negative role model than you do from a positive. And I've learned everything in life what not to do from my old man. So overall, he's my biggest role model in my life.
Yeah, we were talking about this on the drive up here, weren't we?
We were.
You know, I had a previous guy on my podcast called Ross Nyhill, and he won't mind me saying this because he said on my podcast, but you know, he grew up in a house full of addiction and violence as well. And, you know, one of the things he told me was that, you know, I've learned what not to do with my kids now.
Correct.
From bad experiences. So, you know, it's just really positive and really good to hear that, you know, you don't have to be your father's son.
You don't. You don't. And, the biggest turning point in my life was a particular moment with my father that I feel like I really formed my moral compass at that point at a young age. I knew who I wanted to be, and we're talking about me wanting to join the military, and it was just before my mother left. I remember I used to always, you know, you're a young boy, you play soldiers and whatnot, you pretend you're Rambo running around the house. I was an only child, so my imagination was very vivid.
Yeah.
Okay, very vivid. But it was at that point, I remember saying to my mum while she was sleeping, come on, mum, we need to leave. Now, that's pretty scary for my mum because my father's sleeping right next to my mother. Only of a 7-8-year-old saying that to their mother, come on, let's leave. But it was around that period of time I knew I wanted to be of service. I knew one day I was going to be a soldier around that 7-8-year-old mark.
Yeah.
And I guess that's pretty
From
rare.
that early.
Yeah, rare to know that that's the type of career path that you want to choose.
Yeah.
It took me a while to get there. As I'll explain later on, I guess. But I knew at a young age that was the path that I was going to choose. Life got in the way because I didn't join the military until I was 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty late for a soldier, really, to join.
Yeah.
25. Yeah. It's usually around the 18 through to 21, 22, but 25 I already had a lot of life experience.
Yeah, I was 18.
Yeah, yeah. So you're a baby straight in,
Yeah, I was straight out of school, straight into the military. But yeah, I know some guys that joined in their late 25s as well. You know, they just had a bit of a snap out of reality and, you know, felt the need to serve or get away from a previous life that they weren't enjoying or weren't living to their fullest, and you know the military offered that outlet for them.
100%.
So let's dive into what you just said. Then the reason, you know, life got into the way a bit for you joining the military. So you want to explain that to me?
For sure. So through high school, when I left high school, 2002. I finished year 12, so 2002, when I started partying a lot. I always worked. I went into bricklaying, labouring, okay? And then from there, started an apprenticeship as a bricklayer. I knew it wasn't my career. Hard work, tough gig.
Tough trade.
Driving down that M1 every day, 2-hour drive from the Central Coast down to Sydney, working 8 hours, drive back. And then when I was doing night TAFE, I'd drive up past my house on the Central Coast, up to Newcastle and work till 10:30 at night, back home around 11:30, in bed by 12, then up at 4 the next morning to get ready for work the next day. Did that twice a week, and so it was a hard slog, real hard slog. That partying that I was doing every weekend, sometimes even on a Wednesday, started turning into taking a bit of drugs, smoking a bit of weed, partying too much, okay? And then during that period of time, around 22, my stepfather, 21, 22, my stepfather got diagnosed with cancer. He had a back issue for a while, and the professionals, the doctors, just couldn't discover what was wrong with him. And then all of a sudden I remembered the doctor called the house, Dr. Suri, and he goes, oh, we got great news, tell your father I've booked an appointment, come in. And okay, I told my stepdad, and when we all went down there, and he goes, and when I remember sitting down, and he goes, unfortunately, we think you may have cancer. Now, the doctor said I got good news, and I'm like, I guess as a scientist, they sort of discovered what's wrong with him, and that's what they were talking about. Now we can try and treat it, but we didn't take that as a family. Then we're back and forth at the hospital, and then he deteriorated really rapidly, and we got the option, quality of life or quantity of life. And quality of life is he comes back home and we treat him with Misty morphine. Quantity of life, he stays in the hospital and we might get an extra couple of months out of him. So we chose to bring him home. At this period of time, I stopped bricklaying and got into used car sales. I always wanted to wear a suit, or instead of wearing the tracksuit pants and the high vis, I wanted to start using my brain. So I got into sales. I got into a cadetship. About 1,000 people went for that cadetship. 10 got selected, and I was one of the 10.
Yep.
For Australian fleet sales, used cars, mate. You learn your craft in sales in a used car dealership. You know what I mean? I was working there for about a year, and then all this happened with my stepfather. And I remember the last moment with my stepfather. He was we're watching Troy, the movie Troy, in the lounge room together, holding each other's hand. Now, he'll never open his eyes because he's a bit of a proud man, and the fact that he was just laying there in our lounge room didn't do him any good. So I think he was embarrassed, so he didn't open his eyes at all. And when we finished watching the movie Troy, I let go of his hand and went to walk out of the lounge room, and he goes, "Matt," and it's the first time I've heard him speak, like in 2 weeks. And I turn back at him, and his eyes are open. And I walk over to him, and I remember grabbing his hand, and he grabbed mine. He goes, "Matt." Okay, yeah. Now, I never called him Dad because Dad had a bad stigma to it. Yeah, for example,
For you?
Yeah, for me, because of my biological father. So bad that he was a musician. What did I do? I joined the military. Total polar opposites, yeah. So anyway, I'm holding my stepfather's hand, and his eyes are open. I'm looking at him, and I go, "Hey, Dad." And he goes, "Matt, I want you to do something with your life." I go, I will. 20 minutes after that conversation, he was dead. Yeah, he had a cardiac arrest in the back of the ambulance and was dead on arrival at Wyong Hospital. I remember going into the hospital with my girlfriend at the time, Elise, my mother, and my mother could only stay in the room for a while, and then it was just me in the room with him. I stayed there for about half an hour, just holding his cold hand, and he had a crucifix on, and I remember lifting his head up, and I could feel like the cold blood running down his neck when I lifted his head up. I could felt death. That's the first time I really encountered death. Yeah. And I took the crucifix off and just sat there with the cold body, just looking at him. I don't know why I felt the need to stay in that room, but I did. Kissed his forehead. Said a bit of a prayer to him.
Yeah.
Told him how much I loved him. I probably regretted not calling him Dad much, really. But he knew he was my dad. Then I remember me, my mum and girlfriend at the front of hospital just holding each other, embracing each other as we're all crying. Then I became the man of the house. I was still living at home with my mum in the housing commission because I was just partying. And what do you do after an incident like that? Do you think you sort your life out, or do you party more?
I think you would have partied more.
I partied more, mate. I ended up losing my girlfriend at the time. After about 6 to 12 months after that incident, she ended up leaving because she couldn't handle the partying anymore. We're getting on in our age. We're about 22, 23. She's starting to think about, well, I want a husband, kids soon, marriage. I'm just partying every weekend. My pay that I'd get, I'd just blow it all up the wall. I was looking after Mum at home still. Like, I'd cook dinners and whatnot. Mum got on her feet pretty quickly. I thought she'd be gone, but actually done wonders for her. She suffers from a bit of anxiety and stuff too, but it really made her come out of her shell, and she become this superwoman. So
isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's like you go through trauma and you've got no option to back out. You've got to either push forward or die, essentially, and she chose to push forward.
Yeah,
and,
you either sink or swim.
Yeah, exactly. And she definitely swam. And
good on her.
Yeah. So I partied more. Then I met soon to be my future wife, now ex, to be honest with you. But when I met her, we were dating for about a year, and I was smoking weed, partying non-stop. But I had what I promised to my stepfather in the back of my head and knew what I wanted to do. So when he said, I want you to do something with your life, I knew exactly what he was talking about. Wanted me to join the military.
Had you spoken to him about
Yes,
that? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. The whole family knew I wanted to join the military.
Yeah.
I'd always talk about it. Yeah, I'd always be watching videos. Big one was September 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, although I already wanted to join the army before then, I know a lot of soldiers wanted to join from that moment, but I definitely wanted to join before then. But I still remember rocking up to school and teachers crying and everything, and I was just mesmerised by what was happening, like, not in a good way, obviously, but just like, shit, it's on. There's going to be war. This is definitely on here. We're not going to go to war over this. And eventually we did.
Yeah, I remember being 11 years old and waking up in the morning to my cereal that my mum made for me and you know, out of bed, and it was on the news and you're just looking at it, and I reckon I'd seen it as the second plane was going in live, and my mum's like, oh, there's been an accident. And then it went from being an accident to
terrorism.
Something's happened. But isn't it crazy how you can remember moments like that in your life?
Yeah.
Like, I was only 11. I don't remember anything from when I was 11 or 12, but I remember that.
You remember that?
Yeah.
It's funny because you're talking about those moments. I also remember the Gulf War. I remember them rolling into Baghdad.
Yeah.
Because that was the first televised war.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember, I would have been, 4 or 5 or thereabouts. I remember watching that on the news and being mesmerised by it, and just watching all the footage going in. That's crazy. So, I remember that moment and September 11th, of course. So, I have those two moments that I just remember that are painted in my brain.
Yeah. So, a lot of these moments throughout your life were sort of, you know, they were culminating to you wanting to join the military, right? You had a spark from when you were 4 to 5.
Correct.
You then seen the Twin Towers. You then had a pretty hectic moment with your stepdad.
Correct.
And was that the moment where you just thought, I'm going to do it, but then you sort of went back to too much partying?
Yeah, well, I was still partying during that period of time and addicted to marijuana, mate. I was just smoking all the time, every day. Yeah, and everybody knows you can't join the army like that. And I just made the decision one day. I met my new girl. I thought she'd be my lifelong partner. And I decided now's the moment. Yeah, I'm getting on in my life.
Yeah.
I'm 24 at this time. So I just made that decision one day where I got the bong, threw it in the bin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and said no more. That's it. Simple as that.
Cold turkey.
No more. Stayed away from all my mates that were still partying. Some of them have done some jail time and that now. Got rid of my peers. And it's just basically hibernating at home, working, coming home, training. And I did that for about 6 months. And I said, right, I'm signing on the dotted line.
Yeah. And what year was that?
2010 I enlisted.
Yep.
Yeah, I enlisted with Ryan Fox. He was on your podcast. We actually did everything together. Even was at Newcastle together. Yeah. So we did absolutely our whole military career because we're both F together. Yeah. Even Afghanistan.
Yeah, and you know, for anyone listening, if they want to go back and listen to episode 7, that was an incredible episode from Ryan Fox. I've come a long way since then, but I still look back as that's one of my. I don't like to have favourite episodes, but if I were to listen to another episode, I'd go really listen to his.
Yeah.
He's just such a great guy. But yeah, you know, with the lettering and that, you know, Fox and French, you guys would have spent a whole lot of time together. You would have went Kapuka together. You would have went to Singo together, and then been deployed to 3RR together.
Yep, and just paying shit on each other continuously.
Yeah. All right. So talk me through your posting to 3RR, and then that would have been in 2011-ish.
Yeah. Yep.
And then blokes like yourself and me, we all went to Afghan together.
We did.
In different companies. So, talk to me about that sort of process.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously we all do Kapuka. Yeah, and then we go through Singleton. And it was Singleton I actually got married. A pretty wild bucks party, yeah. We all got on a party bus, and it was just before defensive operations, DEF ops, so sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
So we were down in Sydney having the bucks party from Friday all the way through to Sunday. None of us slept, just party non-stop, and then we were straight into defensive operations where we were doing sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
That was hilarious because half the platoon was just on the nod continuously, mate. Secos were just laughing at us non-stop.
Yeah.
And the cigars would come out left over from the bucks party. But then we went into, my actual wedding had to get postponed because I fired my weapon, negligent disfire, and I remember all the secos and the officer went, what are you doing, Frenchie? Because there were so many people around that had to report it. And I went, yeah, so I had to spend 5 days behind and I couldn't go out on the weekend to get married that weekend. So all the dates needed to change.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Insane. So anyway, that happened. Got to the unit 2011. Yeah, it'd be about then. And we're only down there for about a year because the whole battalion packed up and went up to Townsville.
Yeah.
Okay, so I always wanted to jump out of planes. I thought it was cool. Okay, so that's why I picked 3RAR.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to get my wings and get a fair few jumps out before they disbanded the role and we moved up to Townsville.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a depressing state moving up because I'm only a new digger, see?
Yeah.
And I wasn't thinking I was getting a trip to go to Afghanistan because we hadn't had a trip there for a long time and there's a lot of old diggers there that have had that carrot dangled in front of their face for a long time.
Yeah.
And as you know, they don't take the whole battalion, mate. A lot got left behind.
Yeah.
So I remember when we did that move.
Yeah, I reckon, so sorry to jump in, I reckon it was only about 50% of blokes got taken.
100%.
And obviously they take the better half.
Exactly. And what I did, I remember, went up to Townsville. And what do you do as a young digger when you go up to a new town and you got 6 weeks leave over Christmas holidays? Partying, yeah? What I did, because I went up there as a married man, I trained between the hours of 12 to 2 every day in the heat, climatising to the Townsville weather. So by the time I got back to the battalion after Christmas leave, I was fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was fit. I remember my record was 32 heaves.
Yeah. Heaves are chin-ups for anyone out there.
Yes. Big in the parachute battalion. So I was just ready to go. I was firing well at the range, hitting the target well, training hard. So I almost made it impossible for them not to pick me. And I ended up getting on the reserve platoon, same as Foxy.
Foxy had a very similar story.
Yep, and then all of a sudden, boom, we're in the same platoon together.
Yeah, you make your own luck, don't you?
You do, 100%. Luck isn't there, yeah? There's no such thing as luck. It's just people are wide awake and they see opportunity and they grab that opportunity when it hits them in the face.
Yeah.
When you got your head down and you're looking down at the ground, you're depressed, you're out of the game, that luck, that opportunity is always around you. It's just you never see it.
Yeah, and other people will always look back and say that guy's lucky, but they never see the hard work that goes into getting that luck.
Correct.
It's not luck. It's not luck if someone continuously is successful.
No.
You know what I mean? That's just hard work.
It is. And you visualize your own success. Yeah. If you believe that you will do something, the hard job's done.
Yeah.
The rest will follow.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. Just that forward visualization. If you can visualize it, it will happen. And I did visualize going overseas. Something I always wanted to do. I wanted to step foot on that battlefield. Yeah. I wanted to test myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just talking about that, right? So you worked hard. You weren't on the trip. You made sure that you were at the forefront of people's minds. You got put on the reserve unit to get in there, and then you got told that you were going over to Afghan.
Yes.
So talk me through your headspace before going over to Afghan.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, a lot of sorry to jump in again, but you know, I'm trying to give the best experience to the listener at home, and
sure.
and you know, I don't really talk about my Afghan trip too much to friends at home and stuff like that, but through this podcast, I can jump onto. You know, and I can give people a great insight about, you know, what it's like before going over where you know, there is a chance you could get blown up. There is a chance that you could get shot. There is a chance that you could die over there. So I just want to know what is it like going over there mentally before? Did you say goodbye to your wife at like, hey, this might be the last time? Did you write an envelope to anyone and to give that down? So just talk me through that. Okay,
so the biggest hurdle I did have was my ex-partner, my wife at the time, okay, because she did not want me to go, rightfully so. Yeah, I understand that. I remember when I got told I was on the trip the day of, I got this biggest smile on my face, yeah. Best way to put it, I like to explain to people, imagine training for the rugby league field or the AFL field and you train them for 4 years, 3 years, but you've never got to run onto the field and play.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it's like.
That's the exact same analogy I give to people.
Yep. 100%. So
you're just watching all year. They make it to a grand final. You still don't get selected, and you still got to watch the game.
That's exactly right. Yeah. That's the best way to put it, I'd say, to explain. But I remember riding my bike home. Used to ride with Foxy as well, actually. Riding back home, on me pushing, I got this big smile on my face, like, holy shit, going to Afghan. And I'm going pretty soon. It's not like this long wait. Like I've been picked up and we're leaving pretty soon. Yeah, I'm like, oh, wow, this is incredible. And then reality hit me. I got to tell my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember I was going upstairs and, yeah, she made it pretty difficult, yeah. She didn't want me to go, would do anything to keep me going. But I made a deal with her because she did want a child, and I knew I'm getting my lifelong dream, and I knew Aussie soldiers get paid well. I knew I could pay off my debt and buy a house. So I never wanted to have a child and be put in a situation like I was when I was a child, struggling,
Could you
no
learn from
money.
that? Could you learn from that? Yeah.
Yes, learn from past experiences. Yeah, so that negative role model. Yeah, that's what my father put my family in.
You learn what not to do.
Exactly. Yeah. So I wanted to set myself up first, and I knew with the Afghan trip money, I'd be able to pay off my debt, put a deposit down on a house, raise a child. Yeah, and kill two birds with one stone, get to do that and get something that I've always dreamed to do in one hit. How good. Okay, so we tried for a baby. She said, if I lose you, at least I've got something to remember you by.
Yeah.
Okay, and we went, okay, no dramas. So dead set, we tried, and she fell pregnant almost instantaneously. So she was pregnant by the time I got onto the plane. I had to say my goodbyes, and off I went to Afghanistan. Now, you asked the question about, what about death? Honestly, that's the last thing on my mind. I think it is for every soldier that's about to deploy over there. I don't think they think about death at all. Okay?
I was just too excited.
Yeah.
I was too excited to worry about anything.
Yeah, like it's like you want to go over there to get into this shit.
Yeah.
You're not going over there to sit in a patrol base, which unfortunately that's what you do majority of the time. Yeah. Wars, 99% of them boredom and 1% of the biggest adrenaline rush you'll ever have in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best way to sum up war. Well, for our war anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole death and IEDs and green on blues and getting shot. Even when a digger did die and had come all over the news and whatnot, I never looked at that digger on the TV and thought, that's going to be me one day or be one of my mates. I just thought, let's go over there and do the job.
Yeah, I always thought as well that, you know, if you died over there, like...
Honourable.
But like also at the same time, like, it's not my problem, I'm dead.
And you died doing something you love.
Yeah.
And that was part of my mentality as a paratrooper as well. Yeah. If the chute never opened, at least I died doing something I love. I'd rather die that way after what I've just seen with my father die of cancer, this slow, drawn-out death. Yeah, I'm always big. I'd rather die doing something I love than die of a disease or whatnot. So if I do die doing something I love, play on.
I've probably had a bit of a different thought to that as I've got older.
Correct. And having children, for me, child obviously completely different story.
Yeah,
okay?
like my mindset is totally different to when I was a 21-year-old deploying to Afghanistan. I'm now 34. So I do have a different aspect on life.
You're a man now, not a boy.
Yeah, but that was my attitude before that. So, look, I want to. So, you gave me a bit of insight there. Now, I know your trip was pretty heavy, and we're going to get to a certain date that I want to talk to you about.
Yes.
But explain to me the first, couple months of Afghanistan. What was it like patrolling? What was it like having, live weapons on, and what was it like, just dealing with that threat? Always sort of knowing that you're potentially one step away, or to losing your legs, or you're one decision away to being shot.
Completely honest, boring. Yeah. Obviously, those first couple of patrols, in the back of your head, you're like, oh, yes, we're on, we're worried, we're getting out there, we're going outside the wire, especially me being part of the mentoring task force. We were outside the wire all the time, patrolling and whatnot with the Afghans. But there's nothing going on.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realise, and, I've been asked this a whole bunch of times that, generally Afghanistan was 95% watching paint dry. 5% action, or probably even less. But that small bit of action is
enough.
Yeah, enough to give you stories for a lifetime.
Correct. Correct.
And yeah, you are, a lot of the time you are just, sitting around and in small patrol bases, or you're working with the enemy, or you're doing a lot of walking, do a lot of humping up hills, and it's just a lot of groundwork. But then, which we'll get to, that 1 to 5% is it gives you, it echoes throughout your life.
It does. It does. Those first couple of months, I remember the weight. Yeah, the weight that we were carrying overseas.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. Like,
I remember the weight and just that dry heat.
yeah.
Of like consistent 40 to 40 degree days every day.
Yes. And dehydration, to the point you could only carry 4 litres of water on you because I had no room being a machine gunner myself.
Yeah, I was the same position.
Yeah. You're carrying your rounds, your spare barrel, your claymore, and then all the ECM equipment, which you find out at the end of the trip wasn't even working to start with.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just ridiculous weight. Like, you honestly, if you got into a full contact and you had to fire and move for friggin' kilometres, like, you just wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah, I remember I was about 75 kilos at the time, carrying anywhere from, 40 minimum.
Yeah, minimum. Kilos. Yeah, I was Evie pushing 50, 55. Yeah. And I only weigh 70 kilos myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, ridiculous. But that just proves how fit we were.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And at altitude as well, you got to remember that.
Yes, like ultra fit.
Yes.
Just through, and it was like combat fit of just constant patrolling with weight and getting in my own stuff wherever I could.
And that's the best fitness you can have, combat fit, isn't it? Yeah.
I explain this to a lot of my friends all the time. It's called like army fit, right? That, guys that aren't in the military, I call it military fit. You want to be able to be strong in the gym in regards to, sort of deadlifting, squatting, benching, all the normal compact lifting, right? So like
pulling, pushing.
Yep. So you want to be strong in that, but then you also want to be able to get up and run a half marathon at ease. Not at ease, but you'll be able to finish it.
Yes.
And that's what I call military fit. And
I think complete all-round fitness, really.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, and it's starting to come around with this high rock stuff that I've seen, but there's a real incorporation now to having a good running base or a good cardiovascular base, which correct. I think the military gave us a lot. But yeah, staying fit like that, I just think is just so important. And we're going to talk about that as well, staying fit for kids as well, the programs you're running now.
Sure.
But let's stay on the Afghan stuff now. Very, very heavy topic that I want to talk to you about. Now, I spoke to Foxy about this.
Yeah, for sure.
It was the 29th of August 2012. We had 3 of our guys get shot and killed, 1 more injured, and it was a green on blue. So if anyone listening at home, a green on blue is when the mentoring task force, which we were doing as Australian soldiers, we were mentoring and training Afghan troops. Mm-hmm. One of those Afghan troops turned on our guys and shot and killed them one night. This is probably going to be a first in regards to someone telling their story that was actually there. You were there the night of that. I spoke to Foxy. Foxy was the patrol base next to you. And
he was.
And, just a bit of background on that incident, right, of the night for me. I remember being woken up and told to put on 2 minutes notice to move, and we were talking about this on the car ride down here. That, I got up and instantly I was just thinking to myself, who's out there? And then I'm trying to think, well, I hope it's not Foxy. I hope it's not Frenchie. I hope it's not this guy. And it just plays on your mind. I remember sitting there as well being like, well, fuck, if it's Foxy, I'm going to have to go talk to his parents. Yeah. I'm going to have to go talk to his girlfriend when I get home. And then like an hour later or something, we got the names back, and I feel so bad for saying this, but it was almost a relief that it wasn't my friends. But we had engineers next to me start to break down and cry.
Crying their eyes out, mate.
Because it was their friends.
100%.
And I just, instantly, I didn't feel, I felt a little bit guilty, to be honest, that it wasn't my friends. Yeah. Or the guys that I was really close with out there.
I think it's a natural reaction, but especially if you're outside the incident. Yeah. Because I remember Foxy explaining the same thing to me. He was saying, fuck, how am I going to tell Frenchie's, how am I going to tell Frenchie's wife? Or Frenchie's mother. Yeah.
So, look, mate, I'm just going to hand over to you.
Let's go.
If you need to stop it all during this, we spoke about this before, just let me know, man. We can pull it up and we can have a break. But, yeah, I want to know, from your point of view, what happened the night of the 29th of August 2012.
Yeah, for sure. So, remember we got orders. We're going out to a patrol base called Wahab. Now, we didn't get given any map of it, any layout of the patrol base. It's quite funny because when the investigations all came out at the end, actually we did have that information, but my lieutenant just never got that information. So we're going in there pretty blind. What we knew was a patrol base in that particular location. think it had around 200 Afghans in it, Afghan National Army. So like you explained, green on blue, mate, green. So for example, for listeners at home as well, think of a map. Yeah, Afghan soldiers being green, Australian soldiers being blue. Yeah, so anyway, we got the orders that we're going to rock ours. But what we'd do as part of the mentoring task force, we'd go to different locations and would train with the Afghan army, and then we'd go out on patrol with them and engage with the enemy, trying to hunt the Taliban. Okay. This particular patrol base, Wahab, was a good 5-hour drive away from Silk Bed, where we were permanently located. There's going to be another 10-day mission. We're going to go head out there, live out there for 10 days. Now, we went out there with a pretty small contingency. It was just my section. But then our attachments, we had our command element with us. So our Sarge, our SIG, our lieutenant. Okay,
So how many all up?
So listen, I can't quite remember how many, but I'll do sort of quick math. So a section has 8 soldiers. Yeah, that's us complete. 3 from the command element, the SIG, the lieutenant, the community. I think medic as well. Then we had a mechanic with us as well, because we're going to fix some equipment out there.
Yep.
And then our engineers and drivers.
Yep.
Okay, so pretty small group when we're going out to a patrol base of 200 Afghans.
So around 15 to 20 blokes?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it took us a while being the machine gunner in and out of the hatch out the back. I remember getting there, and it's up on the top of this big hill. Okay, to the front of the patrol base where we entered, just think it's one big long rectangle. That's exactly what the patrol base was, and razor wire at the front of it, which they moved to the side for our vehicles to get in. Okay, and then all through the patrol base, these really big guard towers. Okay, so we come in through the front, up on top of this hill. Now, to the front of the base, all the desert. And as you know, in Afghanistan, it's quite picturesque how those green zones run like veins all through Afghanistan.
Yeah, they're attached to the water stream.
Yeah, the ducts. Yeah. And about 50 metres either side of it's just luscious green, yeah?
And then all of a sudden it just hits desert.
You can step over, can't you? From green zone straight into desert.
Yeah.
Quite picturesque.
It's amazing how it does that.
Yeah, crazy. And it's been happening for centuries, yeah?
Thousands of years.
Yeah, thousands of years. So we are looking out, so at the back of the patrol base, you're looking over the green zone. Okay, and I remember right out the front on the road, there's this massive hole from an IED that exploded there probably a year ago, and there's still debris everywhere from it.
Yep.
Okay, huge hole. But anyway, we enter the patrol base, and the first thing we do as diggers, we get out, set up our cots to sleep because we're going to be there for 10 days. Our lieutenant, soldier, and that meet their counterparts at that patrol base. We start setting up a gym.
Yeah.
Set up a little makeshift gym. Now, once we were all set up, we started working out because we'd just been in the vehicles for so long. Yeah, had to get a bit of a pump on, get our blood moving. It's quite strange in Afghan, for those aren't listening, but you and I know that the Afghans will come up and start giggling like little schoolgirls looking at you working out. Yeah, we got no shirts on, we're working out in the hot sun. They all start pointing at us, giggling and laughing. It's just their culture.
Yeah.
It's just what they do. Okay, these big Westerners coming in, training hard. Yeah, they like the look of us, and they come up and socialite, and we started talking to them. Now, we don't speak their language. Obviously, they don't speak ours, but a lot of communication's not verbal, is it? You can sort of understand what they're saying, and they can sort of understand what we're saying.
Yep.
Okay, obviously, we had interpreter. We had interpreter with us as well. Want to quickly touch on this interpreter. This interpreter at Silk Bed was shot multiple times from, I think, 2 RAR's trip. And he went to, he was at TK and he was recovering, and his first trip back out with Aussie soldiers was us.
Yeah,
That night.
right.
That night.
Wow.
Yeah, that night he wigged out that night.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're training and we get orders that night that we're going to go on a mission the next day.
Yeah.
Okay? We sleep, we rack out, get up in the morning early, put on our body armour, check all our weapon systems. We know we're going to be out there. We're going to actually meet up with Foxy, in his section, his platoon. We're going to patrol through the green zone, meet up, clear the green zone of any enemy, and then come back. It's going to be a long day mission. As soon as we got down the hill, an Afghan National Police officer drove past, and he had an IED component. That IED component got passed to our command element, and they called in EOD. Don't know why they did it, but they did. Okay, and then guess what happened? We had to wait there for 10 hours in the hot sun for them to show up to blow it in place. Our engineers could have just done it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, shit, I could have put some rounds into it, you know?
Yeah.
It's just what we deal with overseas in Afghanistan, a lot of rules and regulations, which we don't think of as diggers when we're about to deploy, but when we come back, we did have one harm tied behind our back, didn't we?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah. So we sat there for 10 hours, but I really bonded with my Afghan counterpart.
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 hours in the hot sun, nowhere to go. So we really connected. I remember when we got told, like you're looking at your patrol base, mate. It's just up there. Yeah, you're like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
The mission got canned, obviously. So anyway, we walked up, and I remember walking back up this big hill back to our patrol base, and I was really connecting with the Afghan. We were laughing, like genuinely laughing, not a fake laugh, like genuinely connecting with my Afghan counterpart, and I hadn't done that yet. Yeah, I felt like I was working with them, but never connected with them. So I felt like these guys are pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're walking up to our patrol base, and that feeling of taking that body armor off, after a long day, sitting with it, I know what women feel like when they take off a bra now.
Yeah.
100%. When they say you wouldn't understand, I go, I do understand, trust me.
Yeah.
Taking that body armor off, we all relax, we all start playing cards, and we had a bit of a roving picket on in the evening, so it's just one soldier with his body armor on, and that's it, and a rifle, just protecting the boys. Now, we're at the front end of the entry of the patrol base. Now, we pushed the Afghans all out that were sort of living around that area all the way down the other end of the patrol base. They were all living down there.
Yeah.
But the guard tower still needed to be manned by the Afghans because we just didn't have the manpower.
Yeah.
Okay, to man the guard towers as well, because then we would have to have 3-4 pickets going at night time, and you know how small we are as a group, and we just went on a 10-hour patrol.
Yeah.
And we're going on another 10-hour patrol tomorrow. Yeah, so they manned the guard towers protecting us from the Taliban, and then you got the one soldier inside protecting the boys from any threat. It was around 9:30. Hassan was on picket at the time, and it was my turn. Now, being a machine gunner, I left my machine gun there, went over and grabbed his rifle because you're not going to fire 7.62 inside a patrol base. Grabbed his wild, had a bit of a chat to him, and then he went off to bed. And I'm patrolling, just back and forth. That's all I'm doing, just walking back and forth past guys. So walking about 20 metres down, got a vehicle sort of parked across like that, a guard tower there, another vehicle parked here, and then the boys sort of all in cots here, and big HESCO wars in this rectangle patrol base that we're in. And walking, I remember me and Milo got along really well. Out of the 3 boys, him and me got along really well. He's an older digger, older soldier, kids at home, dry. I love that type of mentality. We just ridicule each other. I'd call him an old prick. He'd call me a young prick. You know, even though I wasn't too young.
Friendship bullying.
100%.
It's the best.
100%. And I remember he was sitting at the head of the table, and he said to me, "Oh, what are you doing, you dry old, you young prick," or something. I said, "Shut up, you dry old C word. I won't say it on your podcast, mate." A bit of banner. And I remember turning my back and walking up back to the front of the patrol base, and then just real quickly. I remember very first instant as I turn around, just for that split second, I thought, who's got fireworks on them?
Yeah, right.
As I'm turning around with my rifle, there's just boys diving all over the table, yelling and screaming. I get on a knee, scan. By this time, the firing had sort of stopped. I put my rifle up into the guard tower. What I knew was I had to get rounds down range, so I ended up laying 7 rounds into the guard tower right above where the boys were. So there was a guard tower right there where it's just happened, guard tower directly across from them, a guard tower behind my back at the front of the entrance there. I'm thinking, shit, did the fire come from there? Guys are screaming, yelling. At this stage, there's no firing at the moment. So I start thinking, shit, did it come from that tower? Shit, did it come from the tower behind me? So I hugged the HESCO wall, put my foot in the razor wire across the front of the base. So I'm sort of protected from my shoulder from the tower there. Then I'm looking at both guard towers, constantly waving. And then Skip starts numbering off my section commander.
Yeah.
And I remember him running down. Big boy Skip is. Respect him so much. I'm running over, Frenchie. And I go, yep. He goes, come on, we're going to clear these guard towers. So him and me went and cleared the guard tower directly across. They wouldn't get out. We had to get our interpreter. We were pretty aggressive to them. At this stage, I don't quite know what's happened, even though it's only about 5 to 10 meters away from me. I've been fixated on the towers.
You're busy.
I'm busy. There's a lot of yelling and
threat.
screaming. I can hear the radio over my SIG just calling in 9-liners.
Yeah.
And we get the guard towers. We get the Afghans out of those guard towers. They get put down to the end of the patrol base. Okay. And what we have now is, at this stage, I don't know how many are hit, but we all know now, but plus we're manning the 3 guard towers, so almost combat ineffective when you think about it. And there's 200 Afghans on the patrol base, and it's 9:45, 10 o'clock at night. It's dim, it's dark. We don't know where the threat came from, whether it was inside the base or it was something somehow outside the base. Just chaos.
Yeah.
Absolute chaos. I remember the helicopter started coming in, so my position was get up, make sure my rifle's pointing at the front of the patrol base. And this is when it started really kicking in for me, like the adrenaline's pumping and everything. I can see the boys working hard. Helicopter comes in, couldn't land in patrol base. It had to land outside. At this stage, the boys were relaxing. None of them had shoes on. Yeah, we were relaxing. I know there was a lot of drama. Why weren't we wearing body armour the whole night? They can go eat a dick, to be honest with you.
They don't understand.
Yeah, they don't understand at all. The only one that was in body armour at the time was me, but by this stage, some of the boys had put body armour on and stuff like that. I remember the boys running out, stretcher right in front of me, and because they were barefoot, you know, the terrain over there, desert, sharp rocks. One of the boys tripped at the front. Milo fell off the stretcher. I knew. I knew.
Yeah.
And then the next stretcher went past me. And then the next stretcher went past me. You knew what happened. The boys are covered in blood. It's a quite chaotic scene. I lose track a bit of time there, but I remember the next helicopter that came in was RS, and his 4-man team, so the SAS. That's why he's been demonised a lot in the media and that, but I got nothing but respect for that man. Felt like we got this when that boy landed, and he came in with his 4-man team and went down and locked all the Afghan rifles up, put them in a container, and basically said to the Afghans, if any of them even goes to try and touch that locker, we're just going to shoot you all. Took the key, and it wasn't long after that the QRF showed up, and manned all the guard towers. Now, in an incident like that, still we didn't quite know what happened. Okay, the QRF arrived, the boys, which is a quick reaction force for those listening at home, and they allowed us to stand down. Now, the problem was with us standing down was they put us in an area, and the only place we could be where the incident just happened. Piles of blood, body parts everywhere, and we're sitting down there in it. I remember me slipping over blood all over my hands, pulling out smoke, starting to smoke. It's all over my fingers. I remember handing the smoke to the boys, and they try and imitate this look in Hollywood movies, hey, but I saw it that night, and I have no doubt the boys saw it in me as well, that 1,000-yard stare, like you could see through the souls of my boys, and I guess I looked the same as well, and we're sitting there just constantly looking at all this. Our mates around us everywhere. We're sitting, we're slipping in it, it's everywhere, and because it's a crime scene, we're meant to preserve it because it wasn't like an act of war. It was a crime scene because it happened inside a patrol base, and the investigators needed to come out the next morning to investigate it. My sergeant didn't give a fuck, So much respect for that man also. Yeah, he's a war dog. Yeah, he's seen the hell of war, and he knew how to look after his boys, and he said that he could see us looking at it, and I remember him saying, fuck this. He got bottles of water, started tipping it over all all the parts over the blood and start kicking dirt and sand over it. Like if my boys are going to sit there, they're not going to sit there and look at that for the next 10 hours. You know what I mean?
I know the guy you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know, yeah.
Yep.
I've got nothing but respect for him.
Yeah, mate. I'm so glad I went over on that trip with him. And if I was involved in that incident, I was glad I was involved in that incident with him, eh? Yeah, he calmed everything down, really took charge. Yeah, and then finally, none of us slept, obviously. And then finally, the investigators arrived the next morning. The Kandak officer, obviously I don't know his name, but the Afghan, I remember he come onto the patrol base and started trying to rip my lieutenant. Yeah, this Afghan high-ranking soldier. And
Didn't he try and blame it on you guys?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Try to blame it on us.
I remember that story.
Yeah, I remember listening to it and we're like, what the fuck is going on here? Why is he yelling at me lieutenant? What? What's going on here? He just didn't want to take any accountability, mate, because pretty big incident, yeah? So anyway, what happened from that moment on, the investigators came out, finally we got stood down, and what they did was all the way to TK, they opened up a route for us. I don't know if you're a part of it, but a lot of Australian soldiers were all along that path that we were going to take to go home, so we didn't have to clear any IEDs or choke points in the vehicles. So they left the whole route open for us, so we could just beeline it straight back to TK. As you know what happens in Afghan, mate, comms blackout, yeah? So none of us could contact our family members.
Now, just to jump in, the reason they do this obviously is so they could let the family members of the deceased know before word starts to spread back home.
Because it was happening over social media a lot, yeah. So the comms blackout was in effect, but it didn't really work because word got out of the incident almost instantaneously. Now, I know this because once the comm blackout got lifted, we contacted families straight away, okay? And once again, none of us slept. We didn't go back to our original patrol base, so we've only got the supplies that we had on us that was going to spend 10 days out in the field. So some of us didn't even have change of clothes. Yeah, and just what we've been through. Yeah. Like you're going out to a patrol base, you just got one set of cams. Yeah, that's what you do. You make it up. And we finally get the ring home. Obviously, my point of contact first was Marley. I found out she was sitting by the phone for 24 hours nearly because she knew it was my section. So the media got hold of it.
Yeah.
She knew it was my section, but she didn't know it was me. So she doesn't know about the attachments, does she?
Yeah.
So she's thinking, 3 dead, 1 injured.
There's a 50%
50% chance it's me.
Yeah.
And she actually had a miscarriage whilst I was in Afghanistan. So the backup plan of if something happened to me. So both plans were destroyed, yeah. Me coming home, she was thinking I wasn't going home and that. So she was a mess. All the wives and girlfriends of our section out at the time were all freaking out. They kept ringing the military. They just kept saying no news is good news. They couldn't give her any information. And finally the comms blackout dropped, being able to phone home. First point of contact, me trying to calm her down. Like pretty crazy, yeah.
She sort of doesn't know
100%.
what's happened.
Yep, correct. And then the next point of contact was my mother, of course. And now, as I spoke about at the start of the podcast about my old man, I let him back in my life, okay? He's an alcoholic, okay,
So you did reconnect with him?
I reconnected with him.
Yep.
I got another story I'll post this story right now. I reconnected with him and let him back in my life. And he was drunk at the time when I rang and he had the newspaper. And for some reason, he just decided to read a part of the newspaper. All right. Now, it was of the incident. And the part that he read was, it was unsure why the guardian angel wasn't doing his job at the time. And that's the only part he read to me. I hung straight up on him. I went straight into the boys. I didn't run. I walked to the boys. I said, do you know Australia's blaming me for this? And they're like, what the fuck? And then they're all starting to research the article and whatnot. And I just went into the chapel by myself. I just sat there. I'm a bit of a religious man myself and started questioning myself. What am I to blame for this? What the fuck? What? Because I didn't even comprehend that. And like none of the boys even comprehend that. And all of a sudden, the country I'm fighting for is blaming me for that. And I'm already dealing with not even dealing with the fact that I'm having a ramp ceremony and saying goodbye to my mates. It's like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, the media just gets shit and run with it.
100%. And I remember my lieutenant walking in because one of the boys must have said, he came in and he sat next to me, and so much respect for this comment that he said. He goes, "You're not to blame, mate. If there's anyone to blame, it's me." Like protecting his boy, yeah, he knows we still got a fight to go. Yeah, and I remember him and me just giving this biggest hug and embrace, in the chapel in front of the crucifix. Then it was the ramp ceremony, and then between that period of time, I was just constantly getting called in with these men in black suits, giving testimony, getting called out of the field. But we didn't get any break, man. We did our ramp ceremony. Then we went on some of the longest missions we've ever been on, searching for this guy. His name was Hector Tula. He's alive today. Yeah, he's alive today. Searching for him, and the whole purpose of these long missions were going on. I look back at that, and that's definitely the wrong thing for us to be doing.
The wrong thing.
Yeah, we shouldn't have been out in the field. We should have just had some time to de-stress, unwind. We're back in the field. Like, there's a lot of boys around there that could have filled in for our section to patrol. Yeah, and why are they getting us to do all these patrols?
Yeah, there's a very interesting study on it about getting soldiers back into the action for their own mental health after an incident to keep them ticking over, so they don't have time to dwell on it. But those effects can be
pushed to the right.
Yeah, and they can be delayed upon years and years because they don't get that time to stop and produce, and then to review, self-control that situation that just happened. But it's the reason they do that for is to keep this one is to keep the soldier at a level that they can get them going and keep working for the mission, and then two, for the overall mission, right? But it does have, in the same study, it does have effects for over a longer period of time because they didn't get to mourn right there and then.
No, so we said goodbye to Milo, Martin, Pody, like at the ramp ceremony, and that was our little bit of mourning we got to do.
Yeah.
Like, we love those boys.
What, like 2 hours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was packed the room, so it's not even that you get to go up. Obviously, the drivers, engineers, they all went up, but obviously us three are our boys. Like, they were our boys too, man. They were like, I felt like we should have had more time with them or something. Like, as I explained in my story, how much time I spent with my stepfather.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that room.
Yeah.
Like, I would have loved to spend some time with those coffins, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like,
time to say goodbye.
Yeah, it's like it's a slap on the arse, see you later, get on that plane, go back home. And never got to go to the funerals or anything.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you bring this point up because it contradicts that that bit of study done. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got someone here saying that, no, I needed more time for closure to say goodbye. I would have benefited off having a couple of days off where I got to self-reflect and get myself right rather than being put out there.
Yeah.
It's very interesting because, like, they can write all the studies they want everywhere across the world, but they can't get first-hand information,
They
can
can't.
they?
No, they
very
can't.
interesting. And it just listening to you now makes me question that study.
Yeah.
Because I've always sort of been for that study of getting blokes out again and making sure they're on the job again, right? So they don't get not scared, but they don't second guess themselves back out when they're going back out again. But then listening to you sort of think, well, firsthand, I've just heard it.
Yeah.
So that contradicts the study to some point.
And there's no doubt that we would have carried on with our mission. Yeah, because none of our boys wanted to go home afterwards. Yeah. A few of the boys are starting to get over it. I won't lie. Especially when we had our last big mission of our deployment where it was really pushed for, and it was touch and go whether we were going to get this big mission right at the end of our trip.
Yeah.
And I knew some of the boys were just like, just over it. Just want to go home now.
Yeah.
Just want to go home now. But there was a few of us still left that were like, well, we're here to do the job.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah,
Let's
this is
keep
what's
working.
called
Yeah.
of us. obviously you skip forward now the way the withdrawal happened in Afghanistan. Like, Jesus, you look back and think, was it worth it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and I've had this discussion on a couple of my podcasts, and, I like to take the Marcus Aurelius side of things that, it's got to take that stoicism type thinking where you got to control the controllables, control what's in your sphere of how you control things, and they're uncontrollable situations that unfortunately we can't have any say in, but we had a say in the work that we were doing when we were there to make our country proud, to make our mates proud, to make ourselves proud. But now we're in an uncontrollable situation, and there were so many people that were so devastated at that pullback, and just me and you, like, we know so many people. We've deployed with so many people. I have family members that died over there as well, in Afghanistan, and you do ask them questions of yourself, and you do think about that 100%. And
I had an anxiety attack that night that happened.
See,
legit. I was in hospital that night.
Exhibit
and
A.
I can control those emotions. Is what I teach to children and what I do now for work. I'm very aware of my body and my feelings, and being able to control, which a lot of people are the uncontrollables, like a panic attack or anxiety, knowing it, knowing the feeling of it, knowing the techniques to be able to pull yourself out of it and really take onus of yourself. I couldn't that night.
Yeah.
And I ended up going to the hospital. I just needed a nurse to just tell me that I wasn't having a heart attack.
Yeah.
And that was that night. And the Afghanistan withdrawal happened. I think all those feelings of 2012 all kicked up.
It all came back.
It all come back. And and that was since I recovered from my post-traumatic stress disorder. That's the one time that it's reared its head. And it really, really reared its head. And I just couldn't. I was having this panic attack that would last for about a minute. Then I'd have about 3 minutes off. Then it'd be a minute, 3 minutes off. And it'd happen for about 4 or 5 hours. And I just couldn't regulate it. Nothing I could do to regulate it. So I had to go to the hospital and just had that nurse tell me that I'm not having a heart attack.
Yeah, and then what happened that night? Did you stay there or?
Once the nurse said, "Mate, you're fine. You panic attack."
Yeah,
it didn't stop, but at least I knew I went home and I know I had all my vitals checked. I'm good to go.
Yeah,
it's exactly what I knew it was, and never had one since. And I didn't have one for years leading up to that moment.
Yeah,
but that's what that meant to me and how bad that withdrawal did. And so I know how a lot of diggers across the world, mate, feel about what happened with that withdrawal.
One question I want to ask you, which is quite heavy, but have you had a chance to say goodbye to the 3 guys?
No. The way I say goodbye to the 3 guys is carrying on their story and their legacy to the youth of Australia.
So what you're doing now?
What I'm doing now.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's going to lead us into what you are doing now. Firstly, I just want to say thanks for sharing that story. Not a lot of people understand the weight of war. And not a lot of people want to talk about it. Trying to get people to also have them conversations is, I run a podcast, right? And I enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I talk to people, and a lot of people don't want to come on. They don't want to talk about these stories. So thank you for telling me that story. And thank you for giving all the listeners out there just a small snippet of what war can be like and the worst side of war.
Yeah.
But what's also really, really good of how you've turned it around, and you haven't complained about your situation, which is what I love the most about it. You haven't complained about it. You're actually, about having friends that died around you. You're actually honouring them by what you're doing now. Now, where we are running this podcast is out of Kangaroo Valley, about 2 hours south of Sydney. Now, you started a program called Veteran Mentors. A very good friend of ours, Ryan Fox, on episode 7, spoke about this, and he spoke about when he left the military, how he lost a lot of purpose, but he found purpose back through this program. Now, I want to know, where did this program spark in your head about, I want to do something?
Yeah.
And, give me a bit of motivation behind it, and also just how it's grown to what it is now. And then I want to stop you throughout it and just pick your brain and pick stories about it. So let's hit this up.
Let's do it. So I left the army, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, low point in my life, left the army, moved back to the Central Coast. My psychiatrist said to me, do things that you used to do before you joined the army. I used to surf. So at Soldiers Beach, my wife was pregnant with my child at the time that I have now, 8-year-old Lily. And as I was surfing one winter's day, I came off my board and was knocked unconscious. So I ended up in the hospital that day, and I'd broken my neck and my back in 2 places. So post-traumatic stress, wife pregnant, now broken neck and back. Okay, so pretty low point in my life.
Rough.
Very rough.
Yep.
Okay, all the painkillers under the sun, just lost all purpose again. I felt like I was back where I was around the time that my stepfather died.
Rough period.
Yep. Neck brace, chest brace. I was told I'd never lift weights again, never jump out of a plane again. I was lucky that I kept the ability to use my legs. They were debating whether I was going to do surgery or whatnot on me. They've decided not to do the surgery. Instead, I had to have a Miami J neck brace and chest plate, and I was in it for 4 months, couldn't move, just had to lay down. I had to have my ex sponge bath me. Just lowest point, yeah. Now, while I was getting physio, I was told about a youth development program up in Queensland. It was run by veterans, and she sent her kid on the pilot program. I got along with my physiotherapist beautifully, yeah, and we talked, we discussed stories, and she said, you'd be perfect for that. Now, obviously, I got given the number, and I was hesitant, wasn't I? I wasn't going to ring that number. I healed up, delivered my child. All of a sudden, I went on the program. I rang up and said, you're looking for veterans? Just went in balls deep, so to say, brother, and went up there, and I got a gig up there, and it wasn't long afterwards. A couple of programs. I loved it. I was like, wow, I'm connecting with these children, like really connecting with them. They're really looking at me as a role model. It made me get purpose. And then all of a sudden I met Troy, which is one of my partners, and then Glenn was leaving the army the same time about when I got out. Now, he's my childhood best friend growing up, but he joined the army 5 years before I did, and our paths were different in the military, so we never crossed. Yeah, but he came and worked at the same program, and we met Ricky, which is our 4th shareholder and director, but we bought him out there. We got a bit too quick, big, too fast. He's an older gentleman. After doing 4 or 5 programs, we're like, we can do this bigger and better ourselves. It wasn't run properly. We were the ones doing all the legwork. We need to start our own and add our own philosophies and add our own twist and take on a program that the basis was veterans helping kids, yes, but they didn't know how to help the kids. They were just basically throwing us in and just expecting us to rub off on the kids. But we created this format, this program, basically privatised youth development in Australia. And we started off at our very first program, 2016-17. Only 24 children up in Queensland. We used to travel up there all the time. And then after 7, 8, 9 programs, we're looking at our platoons. And I remember one platoon, we had like 86 children on it, 86. And we had about 30 on a standby list.
So demand was there. You were running a really good course.
Well, we were running a program, and what we were finding and what was happening is we were helping children that had been in the mainstream mental health system and the education system, and it'd been failing them. Yeah, so there's not one shoe fits all, okay? And I think society really thinks that one shoe fits all mentality works, especially when it comes to mental health and when it comes to the education system. So we're getting these children that society had told them they won't amount to anything. They're suspended a lot, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, expelled, medicated up to the eyeballs. Some parents were at their wits' end because no one could help them, that they were even thinking about surrendering their own child. And we're getting results straight from the get-go.
Yeah.
Tremendous results. Now, we're firm and direct in those, especially those first 3 days on our program. And back 7 years ago, mate, you can imagine the way society was then. It's sort of coming a bit to the centre now, but really front of pound we really have this cotton wool mentality that you need to wrap a child up in cotton wool and avoid any hard work for them or anything that's going to give them anxiety. But what does that overall do to a child? Gives them anxiety, gives them depression. You need to grow from adversity. You need to put these children that are the most resilient creatures on the planet in the suck. in the misery, give them the tools to overcome. Then also add in opening up and talking about your feelings, being comfortable with vulnerability. We do this on this program through sharing my story on night 2. As I explained to you, but even with the children, I go in more depth because it's a more smaller knit environment. Yeah, it's at night time, it's around a campfire. And I'll go in depth detail, and I want these children to see me cry. I want these children to see me become vulnerable. Yeah, because a lot of these children have been speaking to psychologists, psychiatrists, and they haven't opened up to anyone. We need to lead by example for our children. And that's what these mentors that I gather from all over the country to help mentor these children, we lead by example.
Ex-military mentors?
Ex-military, predominantly Army.
Yep.
About 60, 65 we've got that work with us part-time.
Yep.
They give up their time, a lot of it. And yes, they're ex-military, but they're high achievers in the civilian world. These are firefighters now, keynote speakers, paramedics.
Yep.
Okay, these are the elite. Yeah, they're not just veterans just sitting at home rotting away, but they still had lost that purpose. Okay, they've got these great jobs, but they miss that military environment.
Yeah, and this gives them a bit of a taste of it again.
This is a taste of it without the military bullshit.
Just enough.
Yeah.
So, explain to everyone at home and explain to me, day by day, just a quick brief of it. It's a 9-day course.
It's a 9-day program, so it runs from a Saturday through to the following Sunday.
Yep.
So the following next Sunday. We start off with the participants arriving to us. Now, we're a national company. We take children from all over the country, and we become experts in picking children up from Sydney Airport or Brisbane Airport for our Queensland operation. We collect the participants, our local drop-off for those that are local. We get them, for example, this program you're sitting at right now, we got 70 participants on it from all over the country. Yeah, and we're just over halfway through. Okay, so the first 3 days, I want you to think military boot camp, but we're far from one. Okay, so that's where there's a bit of stigma attached to us. They think we're just a standard boot camp, and we know the government, especially up in Queensland, spent millions on whether boot camps worked, and they came to the decision that they didn't, but they didn't do us, did they? If you just want to yell and scream at a kid for 9 days, you're not going to get the results. Yes, the kid's just going to conform, but they're going to go home and just go back to the same old behaviour. So the first 3 days, we do have to break bad habits, and it's something lacking in society at the moment. We do have to break these participants down. As you know, as a soldier, you rock at Kapuka, you get them broken down from the very get-go, ain't you?
They take your sleep away, they take your phones away, they take any bit of attraction to the outside world away, and you're just broken down to a number.
And were you a kid when you joined the Army? Would you say now that you're an adult?
Yeah, 100%, yeah. I was an 18-year-old kid with still half the hairs on his chest that what he would have had when he was 21 years old.
100%. A lot of the stigma or criticism sometimes that we get is like, oh, they're kids, but they're user soldiers. And I'm like, no, half the people that join the military, they're still babies as well. Yeah. So the first 3 days, so they drop them off, they come to us, and it's crazy. So we strip them of all their creature comforts, so their friends, their devices, mobile phones being the big one. We'll get on tech addiction later on, and put them in military uniform. For a lot of the participants, that's almost enough for them to snap out of their reality, and go, oh, holy shit, we're on here. Now, we're firm and we're direct. I explain in my opening address that we're not their teachers, we're not their counsellors, we're not their psychologists, and we're not their parents. We're hardened veterans, and we will mentor them. You will hate us at the start, but you will grow to love us at the end. Okay, tough love. And it's something that is definitely lacking in society now. So in those first 3 days, early morning, 6 o'clock, okay, straight into PT. All right, smash sessions. All right, we put them in an environment where we don't give them an option to quit, because they've quit on themselves multiple times. When anything becomes hard, they say no, they start crying, they start yelling. Okay,
quitting becomes a habit as well.
It does, and this is a habit that they have.
Yeah.
Okay, mix that with tech addiction. Mix that with too much sugar.
Sugar addiction.
Yep. And then the occasional drug addiction. We don't really take drug-addicted kids, but recreational drug use, yes, marijuana, ecstasy or whatnot, we'll take them.
What about prescription drug use?
Yeah, and I can tell you right now, over the 7 years, it's bad. It's severe. So I'm lucky because what I do is every 3 months I get a snapshot of society. I get children from all walks of life come into one location from all different walks and backgrounds in one location, and I get a snapshot of society both with the parents and the child because we work with the parents as well. Then we send them back. So that's quite unique. It's not an environment. It's not a suburb like a school. It's a snapshot of Australia that we get in one location and then send them back. So after the breakdown, after breaking them down, we switch gears.
At about day 3, day 4?
Yeah, about day 3, mate. Now, some of the punishments, extra PT, of course. Like, it's funny, like, I have a daughter that's 8 and I can wet her with a hose and she loves it. But if a kid on a hot day, or this is the funny one, we'll get a hose out, wet a kid down, it's pissing down rain and they're crying, oh my God, you can't do this to me. It's raining, man.
Yeah.
It's a hose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's how self-entitled these participants are. We even have to take these kids, which was shown on 7 Spotlight, through the pool because the vape epidemic is severe. We've seen the rise of vapes with children. It used to be tobacco and marijuana products that would get smuggled in on camp. Now it's just vapes. We've had kids come in with 200 vapes thinking they're going to sell them on camp.
Bullshit.
Not bullshit.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, and it's so good smashing all those vapes in front of that kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. We take all their mobile phones, put them in their fatigues, and then straight away the detox begins. Social media detox. It's worse than ice. Yeah, I'd rather have a kid addicted to ice than a kid addicted heavily to social media.
Right.
Yeah, these kids are depressed, anxiety-ridden. Kids that have come on that need skin grafts because they've cut themselves so much. They're pasty, okay? Even their posture is starting to deform in our youth.
Because they're just so
cramped over, stiff. And we've seen the performance of them being able to do PT. In the first early days of what we used to have, and I'm going back 7 years now, okay? Yeah, 7 years.
2017.
Yeah, we used to have kids that would be like little thugs, yeah, that just would want to punch on with us, yeah? Pretty easy to deal with.
Yeah.
Now you just have depression and anxiety like you've never seen before.
Have you seen that get worse and worse over the years? Wow.
Like I said, with that snapshot of society.
Yeah.
I have seen that firsthand.
Yeah.
And the increase in medication. I haven't shown you yet, I don't think, but at dinner time, I'll take you down and you can have a look at the medication prescribed to these children on program.
Yeah. And this is something I want to talk to you about as well because you've had this snapshot for over the time, right? And
that's increased dramatically.
Yeah, which is absolutely crazy. And, you know, like I'm just guessing here that when these kids go into the psychiatrist or psychologist, they're just instantly putting them on some type of medication, right? For this or for that or for you're too overweight or you're having depression, so get on this, get on that. When I can almost guarantee that not one doctor has prescribed a healthy high-protein diet. They haven't prescribed 8 hours worth of sleep. They haven't prescribed minimized time on social media. They haven't prescribed a workout every morning, and they haven't prescribed like a time where they can sit and have interaction with a person like we're doing right now. They just go straight to the pharmaceutical tablet form, which I think is destroying our youth.
Agree. And now, listen, I've got to watch what I say here because I am critical of the mental health system, but at the same time, they did help cure me through post-traumatic stress.
Yep.
Okay, so they do have their benefits, but I couldn't disagree with what you said then. Okay. And I asked the question to the kids on program, okay. I say, how many of you here see counsellors, psychologists, psychiatrists or GPs at home and take medication? Almost the whole program put their hand up. I say, because this is what I find. A kid, say around 10, 12, they're starting to have issues. All of a sudden with those issues, they get told, okay, you go see a doctor. The doctor, yep, okay, whatnot. And then after a period of time, they see a psychiatrist, they prescribe medication. Okay, they're told that they will improve if they take this medication, they follow these instructions. 4 or 5 years, all of a sudden their routine is now going to see counsellors all the time, so different to their friends or probably now similar to their friends. So not only does these problems get worse over time, they'll promise something that never eventuates. So now their mental health and their self-esteem is completely shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So combine all that with a device as well.
Yeah.
How are they going to succeed?
Now, I want to bring in a point and I want to discuss with you that when I was going through school, right, probably I was in year 10 in '05 and then, sort of went out and I got out of school in '08 or, done year 12. Social media and phones started coming in when I was about year 10 or 11 and that was the first iPhone that came out.
2007?
Somewhere around there. And I was around 11. I was in year 11, so 17, 18. Now, none of my friends in school ever seen a psychiatrist, psychologist. There was maybe one or two kids out of the entire school that were talking to a psychologist or psychiatrist at the time, and they may or may not have been on stuff. I don't know, but who knows with that situation?
Of course.
What I'm trying to say is that since the rise of iPhones and social media, you are seeing that increase now from even 2017 to now.
Dramatically.
The amount of kids that are on subscription medication and are struggling both internally and externally to express themselves. Now, I'm putting two and two together, and the world would 100% agree with me on this, that it is social media and it is a phone addiction, right? And
correct.
What we need to do, I think, I'm not a parent, so I am talking from someone that isn't a parent, so take this however you want it, but people need to be reduced screen time for kids, and they need to be on a less sugar diet, more active, and getting 8 hours of sleep.
Mate, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can mentor for me, mate.
Yeah, but
I'll go in depth on that.
Yeah, please elaborate.
Yeah, so basically right at the start, the media did pick up on us because we were fighting tech addiction, because I was aware of it in those first early days, but it wasn't till about probably when I went down to New South Wales and I really started researching and seeing what other countries are starting to introduce that I realised that this was a major problem, and it was targeted. Social media, tech was destroying our children at a phenomenal level. Yeah, like the anxiety and depression that I was seeing from these kids. And then you ask, kids have got 3-4 social media apps on their phone, okay? And then some of these kids are on it for 8 to 12 hours a day, 6 hours a day. And what they are doing is the parent, because there's no social stigma attached to giving your child an iPad or a phone. There's no social stigma. I think that's about to change, okay? But there was no social stigma. And because John at school had one, I needed one. I'm going to ask my parents, and my parents are just going to give it over. Parents didn't know. So the generation that's coming through now, the generation raised on social media and
we're
tech,
starting to see the effects of that.
Where the parents, yes, we are addicted as well, but we knew a life without it. We grew up, we didn't have a developing brain addicted to it. Okay, but this generation is addicted to it at the age of 2, 3, 4, 5, because everybody else is. And this is the aftermath. How can our country survive with so much anxiety and depression? These guys are going to be leading our country in 15, 20 years. And if we don't, I almost feel like this generation is almost a lost cause. Yeah, like there's small organisations out here like me that are helping get kids detox from social media and tech addiction, but there's not many of us out there. 7 Spotlights did a lot of research, and the only youth program tested at scale was us in the country that's dealing with this head on. Now, we knew about it 4 years ago. I was advocating for this massively. I was seeing the kids come on program, and I hammer the parents at the parent workshop. I'm like, use guys, when I say hammer, just firm and direct. Kick that door in, rip that phone out, smash it against the wall, turn the internet off, whatever you do, stop it. But because I was the only voice in the room, I'd get a phone call from a parent a month later. Oh, little Johnny's gone off the rails again. Yeah, okay, what's happening? Oh, I gave him his phone back. It's just like almost crying on the phone. You're killing your kid. You're killing your kid. They're locked away in a room with what I like to explain it as is when your kid is in their room, they're no longer learning family values anymore. They're learning the family values through social media and influencers. They're raising your children.
And God knows what they're learning.
100%. The parent. So when a parent all of a sudden wakes up one day and looks at their child and goes, "You were nothing like me. What happened there? You don't have any of the same values of me." And then you got to ask
because you didn't
yourself,
raise them.
where was your child at dinner time? Where was your child in the afternoon? Where was your child on a weekend?
Great
Were
point.
they with you playing?
Yes.
Were they with you while you're mentoring them?
Yeah.
Or were they getting mentored by a social influencer on social media? And the people that are on social media are anxiety and depressed. So you have the anxiety and depressed children looking for validation of the anxiety-ridden and depressed. What a cesspool of misery.
Yeah, people don't realize as well is that, you're only seeing 5% of your influencer's life. A lot of that is just garbage.
It's all bullshit.
It's garbage.
Yeah.
Like they live in these, or they probably don't even live in these fancy places, but they live by the beach and they love their lifestyle, but they go back to their 1-bedroom apartment.
Guarantee
which is
they're
tiny.
depressed.
Yeah, and I guarantee
they're 30 years old. They
suffering.
haven't had a child. They don't have a healthy relationship because they're totally after that obsession, that love.
I mean, I got off social media years ago, and I'm back on now because of this podcast, right? It's because it helps me promote it and stuff like that. But I had the time of my life when I had no social media.
Mate, I cried. Okay,
I loved it. I loved it.
When the Prime Minister came out and said he was going to put a ban on social media under the age of 16, I cried, man. I've been advocating for that for 4 years. I've spoken to producers that basically laughed at me from Channel 7, even spoken to senators, which said that's a great idea but will never happen. So the fact that our PM's come out and said that, okay, that meant a lot to me because my youth is what I do this job for. That's what I've created this company for. And I made it a promise when my child was young, 4 years ago, when I really went on this journey. I wanted, by the time my child got to high school, for this ban to be in effect. Yeah, because I didn't want to have her to deal with that. And obviously she has me as a parent, so she won't. Okay, but I wanted it to come in effect before that. So I had a timeline, and my child's now in year 3. But we need more work. It can't be just that, mate. We need to teach this in schools. There need to be very vivid lessons. So I remember saying to Senator Lambie, I feel what we need is the approach of, yes, we need to change that stigma. The same as you get into a car, and everyone puts on a seatbelt. It's the same as someone, even if they are a drug addict, won't go to Coles and sniff a line of Coke off the conveyor belt. There's that stigma attached. So we need that stigma attached that a parent is going to think twice when they hand their kid the phone. So there needs to be graphic ads on TV. Like, imagine an ad where a kid's in the back cutting themselves and the parent's out watching TV. What would that do to a parent? That's just giving their kid a mobile phone.
Make them think twice.
Wouldn't it what? Yeah, and then so there needs to be that part. And then schools, I strongly believe, and now because I'm so big on anti-social media under 16, I'm not saying get rid of it completely. No, it's here forever and it's a powerful marketing tool. You podcast, mate, you know all about it. Yeah, my company's so successful because of social media. That's how we get the word out. Our 2 biggest advertising tools is social media and word of mouth. Yeah, we no longer advertise in papers. It makes business a lot easier. So I believe through years 7 through to 9, we should be teaching the horrors of social media whilst this law is in effect, reducing it for children under the age of 16. Then from 10 through to 12, we need to be teaching children how to use it as a powerful tool to grow a business.
Yeah. So I want to talk to you about this because I have an opinion on it, which I think you're going to agree with, right? I think that now I am very free speech like yourself, right?
Yep.
Like, and that is the fundamental, one of the fundamental things that makes us human. Be able to talk your mind and express your feelings without harming anyone through violence, physical violence, right? Because when we stop talking, we start fighting.
Correct.
And we've seen that around the world. Now, I actually agree with keeping our youth off social media until a certain age, say 15, 16, whatever that be. And then from there can be steps to them getting into social media.
Yes.
I actually agree with that. And there's going to be people that message me about this podcast and disagree with that because
Join the club.
but I do think that until you're the age of 18, you should not be able to make certain decisions. Now, one of those decisions, I'm very, very hard on this, is that you shouldn't be able to choose your gender and you shouldn't be able to be on social media and you shouldn't be able to get a tattoo and you shouldn't be able to drink and you shouldn't be able to vote. When you get to the age of 18, you can do what you want. It is your body and your choice. And then the same with social media. So I actually agree on that. And I think if this ban does come on place, I am probably pretty right-leaning in my thoughts, but I think that there has to be certain restrictions for kids and youth.
I agree. So just to throw back to when I was up at an airport, I remember a kid, she would have been only 6 or 7. And she was there and the mother was there. They looked like a good family. Yeah, well dressed, well presented. But the kid had an iPad and for 2 hours doing endless TikTok videos. The mother was on Facebook. Now, I'm not saying they're bad people, but I saw person after person walk past them and say nothing. I'm sitting there watching it and I realised that there's no stigma attached to this. No one cares because everybody's doing it. So the only way you can create that stigma is harsh laws and penalties to come in. And then when that's in effect, then that stigma can start to grow. Same as when first time they would have tried putting a seatbelt on. Yeah, I'm sure that would have been a rule that no one liked.
There's a great part on the Joe Rogan podcast where they interviewed a bunch of Texans that for the first time they were putting a seatbelt on, and it was just hilarious stuff like, oh, they're trying to control us. This is garbage. Like, why should I be able to wear a seatbelt? It's like, it was really funny. It's a really, you can actually Google that, type that in, Texas people wearing a seatbelt for the first time. It'll take you to the YouTube of it.
There you go.
It is great. It is brilliant.
And now society, it's the first thing we do when we get in a car. Don't even think twice about it.
Yeah.
Because
it saves lives.
100%. So that's my stance on social media. I think we need to act now because it is destroying a generation. I do believe our country will fall off a cliff if we don't fix it. It's the number one killer with our youth, and I think will eventually be the number one killer to our GDP eventually, because when all this workforce is suffering, we've got a criminologist here, and she's a professor, teaches criminology, and she's seen the change in the kids that she's getting from school. She says it openly. Because they can't deal with stress or anxiety, and some of these are going into the police force.
Yeah, we spoke about it in the car ride down.
We did. And she's shocked, and she knows it's all because of social media. Yeah, and there's just this cotton wool mentality. And I do believe if the Prime Minister I hope it's bipartisan, which I think it would be. So even if he doesn't get re-elected, I hope the government entering power takes that on themselves to make that their mission as well, because our children is bipartisan, Doesn't matter whether you're left or right. They're our children. They're our nation.
They're still growing up.
Yeah, so that's the strongest issue that I've been battling on the social level, because we're more than just a youth camp, like tackling social issues. I've spoken to multiple media outlets about social media. So the day that the Prime Minister came out, I cried. I sat in my house, I started crying and thought to myself, fuck yeah, let's go. Let's go. Finally, someone is saying it. And he had a lot of pressure put on him. Yeah, from all over. Okay. Because at the end of the day, parents know what it's doing to their children. Now, I used to be the lone soldier, and I remember every time I'd talk about it, I felt like they're not even listening to me, these parents, no matter how firm and direct I am with them. But now there's so much evidence coming out about it. It's everywhere. That if a parent, after sending their kid to a camp like this, chooses to get their kid back on social media, that's on them. And I say that at the end of the program. That's on you guys now, because it's not just me talking about it. I'm just not this lone wolf out there. Yeah, you can get this information. It's everywhere now. That's killing your child. Yeah, so it's on you. So obviously we skipped to the social media part, but back to VM after the 3-day breakdown phase. Yeah, we enter the build-up phase, and that's where we enter meditation, which is very key.
And we're in that phase right now.
We are meditation. So we enter called sound bowl meditation, controlled breathing, forward visualization. Okay, really get these children to start switching off their brains. Yeah, being that Zen ice baths even, mate, which I know you love that one.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. We demonstrate the ice baths to the children. Okay, if I had some saunas here, I'd get them in there as well. Okay, maybe when the PM gives me my own facility one day, maybe we can add that all in. But what I like to say is a child comes onto our program with the toolbox empty. All they know is counselling and medication. When they go home, that toolbox is full of tools, diet, able to cook their own healthy meal, nutrition, exercise, meditation, controlled breathing, forward visualization, job lessons. We even teach them how to shake a hand and look a person in an eye. Yeah, how to act and perform when they go to a job lesson. Things that schools should be teaching these children, but they aren't. Okay. How to get over obstacles with confidence. Yeah, we teach them about tech addiction, but in my philosophy, in the way that I teach, because some of these kids just aren't suited for school. So if you give up a boring lecture, they're going to switch off.
Yeah.
But trust me, they're listening to me when I talk, and they're listening to my mentors when they talk, coming from authority, from dominance, powerful but yet compassionate. Will drill you, but at the same time will sit down and cry with you.
Yeah, that's the one thing I've noticed since I've been here. I've only been here for, 8 hours now. One thing I've noticed is that you can be very, very harsh, but at the same time, you will grab a kid aside, have a 15-minute conversation with them. Now, I haven't got close enough to hear that conversation, but I do see a notebook coming out. I do see stuff being reviewed. I do see almost a bit of confidence being exuded onto that kid. I do see the kid standing up and being, shouting out, I am a new man.
Yeah.
So it's good to see that you're very tough on them, but you can also, and this is all the mentors here, you grab someone, you walk to the side with him, and you have a 15-minute conversation with them.
Yeah,
So
get real with them.
Yeah. So it's very, very personalised.
Well, this is the thing. So when we switch into the build-up phase, so out of the breakdown phase, after I share my story, they have to write their speeches down, and then the next day they have to deliver it just in their small sections. So 70 kids, 7 sections, like break out of a platoon semi. That's what we sort of run off, a platoon style structure. 2 mentors, so we have a 1-to-4 ratio, 1 mentor to every 4 participants on program. We get that participant to open up and share their feelings, share their stories, and some of these stories would break your heart, mate. Some of these stories, my mentors are crying their eyes out as they hear, and everyone in the room's crying their eyes out. Why do we get the participant to do that? Because once you tell your story and share your story, it's a 2-pronged approach. The next morning when you jump out of bed, you feel lighter. You feel lighter. You feel like the weight of the world has been lifted off your shoulders. But a lot of those children are suffering from the same things that child's going through, and they realise they're not alone.
Yeah.
They realise they're not alone in this world. Shit, you got anxiety over stuff like that. I got that too. Shit, that happens to you at your family. That happens in my family as well. Or a kid that's got everything. I think I've got it tough at home. I don't have it tough at home. Look at you, you poor soul. Here, come embrace.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that connection, that's why we form a tribe and a community at Veteran Mentors.
Yeah.
We're forming a national community, a national identity with our youth. We're sitting at over 3,500 families. So we think children and families that have done this, and your mother, dad, stepfather, the points of contact, we've contacted over 10,000 people.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's just growing daily. And the results speak for themselves, because a lot of our clientele, not just social media, is word of mouth.
Yeah.
And because we're a private company, the only way we get people coming to us if we get results. We're not a not-for-profit. We're not out there having to sell to the millionaire to get funding. My company is measured from results, simple as that, not a pitch line that I give to get funding. Yeah, I have to deliver a good result for the participant, for the parent, for Australia. And if I'm not hitting that target or doing that, my company dies. Simple.
Yep. So what is the target and the end goal for your program? And explain to me the last couple of days.
Yeah, so I'll explain the last couple of days first. So we switch from giving these kids all these skill sets, even be able to form your own PT session.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they know what they're doing.
Skills to go home with.
100%. And in the nutrition lesson, telling them about when you go to Woolworths, you shop on the outside, not on the inside. In the inside, that's where all the processed shit is. If you want 80% of your trolleys filled with the outside, you're looking at fresh produce, veggies, meat, eggs, milk.
Yep.
Get that in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, not all that processed shit. And some of the parents just don't know this because they haven't been taught either.
Yeah, a lot of Australians don't know
and
that.
I don't criticise the parent for that.
They don't know healthy eating, but that's what they've been taught growing up.
What are that pyramid? What a load of shit that was.
Yeah, that is that's the biggest falsehood ever.
And Will taught that at school, mate.
Yeah, that pyramid was drawn off a
sell cereal.
Yeah, but that was done off a study in the 1960s where the sugar industry paid a bunch of Harvard scientists to lie and demonize natural fats over sugar. And for anyone listening at home, type that into Google. It is a very well-known, very well-known story. And doctors and the food pyramid still references that story today?
I've got another Harvard study that was done as well, but very similar to that, but about the Summer 5. So we switch gears, mate, into the test of objectives. This is where we put the participants in hard situations.
Yeah.
They have to use all the skill sets, that they've learnt on program to overcome these challenges. Throwing them out of a plane, skydiving,
Yeah.
abseiling off a 100-metre cliff, which is all done just for us in the beautiful Kangaroo Valley, mate.
Yeah.
Picturesque when you rock up there, you got the fog lying cloud in the valley.
Yeah.
Kids rock up, like heaven. Yeah, and they got to abseil down that cliff and the hike to get out of there. The challenge day, a bit of smoke gets popped. There's rounds going off from the speakers.
Yeah.
We don't teach any military tactics here, but that's the one day we do. And then for 4 hours, they're under the pump.
Yeah.
They'll get stores. They'll have to carry it as a section using teamwork, using resilience. They'll put them in the back of the ute and they think that's over, but all of a sudden the ute don't start. So now they've got to push the ute 200 metres. Working as a team. And then all of a sudden they got to do all the CPR that they were taught on program. That's another skill set they're taught. They don't get the certificate, but they encouraged to go do that with their family when they go home. And they got to crawl through mud and that. They get the cam cream on their face. You should see the smiles on these kids' faces. Now, if you try to get that kid to do that on day one, they'd tell you to fuck off to your face.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Simple as that. They'd punch on with you over doing that.
Yeah.
They'd yell and scream and rather look like an idiot like that than do that. Now they're doing it.
Yeah.
The proof is in the pudding. And then the final piece of the puzzle, our march out parade. Okay, so on that same day of the challenge, just before that, we got a parenting workshop held in a separate location. Goes for 8 hours. I present it today, and then we have our presenter, Troy, comes in and does the rest. We give them tools and techniques to be able to utilise at home. Okay, and then we got Rosie, our counsellor on program, that will stay connected with parents if they wish post-program to keep them honest, to be able to maintain the...
So still a support network.
and the parent group chat. I've got ones active 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, nice.
We're family. I always say that once you've done this program, we are now a family. Yeah, we're raising our children together. I got child. I'm raising them. I learn just as much from the parents and the children as they learn from me because every day I'm growing. Yeah, because every day you might get diagnosed with the same condition, ADHD, but is it exactly the same in every kid? Depression, is it the exact same in every kid? ASD, is it the exact same in every kid? No. We're all unique. All these conditions, they're just labels, okay? And each kid acts differently to it. Okay, so I'm learning from them just as much as they're learning from me. And the same with my mentors. Okay, so the march out parade after the parent workshop, the next day march out parade, that is the most emotional event I've ever been to, and I've done 45 of them now. Okay, and 44, about to do 45. I wish you could stay for it, but next time I'm going to get you back as a mentor, mate. You can be on the tools. And you can see one of these parades, the reunion between child and parent.
Yeah.
My God. These kids, some of these parents haven't been hugged in 3-4 years, been told to fuck off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be huge for the parents.
Yeah,
Getting connection again.
All of a sudden, kid that can't sit still or stand still because they just couldn't be controlled by school, standing there for 35 to 40 minutes, having flies crawl over their eyeballs, disciplined just as what we were in the army, not move, standing 10 foot tall and bulletproof, proud. These parents look at these kids and see that they're proud. They're 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And these kids are looking out at their parents. And then when we fall them out, that first connection, mate, parent and child, boom, holding each other, squeezing each other, tears everywhere. That is worth it alone.
Yeah.
That moment for these parents, and I get it a lot, I'd pay $20,000 for that moment. That's worth it alone. We call it the Great Reset. When you're stuck in misery, you don't know when the misery started. You don't know when it's going to end, but you need some point in time that you can draw a line in the sand and say, from here, from this moment, we are doing everything different. This is that line in the sand.
So how many of your kids go off and completely change their outlook in living and their environment?
70-80%, man.
Yep.
So we get tremendous results.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because change for one family is huge, but that exact same change for another family. I'll give you an example. A kid that can't even do their shoelaces up, is always late out of the house. All of a sudden, that urgency that got. Now, for the high achieving family, teaching that kid that urgency, that wouldn't mean anything to them. But for this family, for that kid to have that urgency now, it's saving hours a week just to get out of the house. It's reducing that stress and that anxiety because the kid's getting ready on time, doing their own care, self-care. Some of these kids don't shower. All of a sudden, a kid gets in the shower and starts showering. Now, you're a parent and you've got a kid at home that refuses to shower. Now, all of a sudden, they come home and they're showering and also just made me a cup of tea.
Yeah.
What?
What's going on here?
What is going on? Now, for me,
What'd you do
if
with
my kid was just doing that, I'd think, no, I want a lot more out of him.
Yeah.
But for the kid to start off there, that's huge.
Baby steps.
Yeah, but for that family, that's not baby steps.
Yeah, that's a huge improvement.
That's huge.
Because they just went from being like a mute in front of the TV playing PlayStation or whatever.
Yeah, to now actually wanting to sit down and conversate with the family.
Brilliant.
That's huge. So how do you measure that success? And that's why I've got this peer review with the criminologist coming out here because we've got to get it peer reviewed. But I measure success not from documentation, from direct contact with the parents.
Definitely.
Who's better? Someone filling out boxes or a parent ringing me 2, 3, 4 years later?
Yeah.
Text messages I get every night. I sit at home and I'll get text messages because I'm public on my Facebook account. Kids reaching out to me. Thank you, sir. What you've done for my life.
Yeah.
Kids. We're hanging up on these kids' walls after the March Out Parade. Not LeBron James, not their famous rugby league player. Us. We're hanging on their wall. We are now their mentor.
Yeah.
And we mean it. Because that term gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
Mentor.
Yeah.
Yeah? My definition of a mentor is a person that's gone through trials and tribulations, come out the other side in a positive attitude, willing to dive down in that deep, dark hole, grab that child by the collar, look up the light, say, you're coming with me. That's a mentor. Simple as that. Anything else is bullshit.
Yeah.
That's what a mentor, and there's no textbook to teach that. There's no textbook. Life experience, and that's what my mentors have. A wealth of it. Yes, I have my medic that's a pharmacist. That's why we can talk about medication, which, mind you, some of the children have been found to have the wrong medication when they come on program. He discovers it, speaks to their parent and the GP, gets it sorted. All right, which is pretty
hectic,
man.
Yeah, that's fucking at that level.
Yeah, that's just how much medication's getting thrown around. Like you'll see after this, the tubs that we've got. It's ridiculous. I had Michael Usher from 7 Spotlight when he did our big piece on us. Stand there, look at that.
I watched
and go, he said, I've got to come back. There's another story on that alone. That is disgusting. But it's not the parents' fault because we get told to trust our medical profession.
Yeah.
And it's not even the medical profession's fault. It's almost like the drug companies, I think.
100%
Because a
it is.
doctor doesn't get into being a GP to give drugs to kids.
Yeah.
They're in it because they love and they want to help and heal.
Follow the money.
Exactly.
And that's all I got to say about that is, you know, and with a lot of the world, follow the money back to where it is. But, you know, mate, I'd like, I just love sitting down with someone that's so passionate about it.
Thanks, mate.
It's really, really good to see it. You know, it brings me back to a lot of good memories from the military. Sit down with passionate people like yourself, but it's just great to see as well. You know what you went through in Afghan, to also going through your childhood, right? And I had this on the last guy I had a podcast with. Terrible upbringing, but he didn't let that upbringing define him.
No.
So, you know, for anyone out there as well, or any, you know, kids that might be listening to this that might know you, that have been on these courses and stuff like that, like the biggest thing is you don't let your childhood or your upbringing define you. You can be your own person, and that is proven time and time again with someone like yourself. My last podcast guest, to be honest, most fucking people I know in the army,
Yeah.
you know, is like don't let your past or don't let your childhood define you. Let your present and your future define you to who you want to be and who you are. So I love hearing that passion from you. Look, we are going to start to wrap this up. I have 2 questions for you. One is a mandatory question, but I just want to know what's the end goal for veteran mentors?
Yes, that's it. Sorry, I've left that one out. The end goal for veteran mentors is, my vision is at the moment, my staff at the moment. They give up their fiery jobs to come here, like take pay, leave without pay because they love what they do. Yeah, you can't find a better bunch of blokes. You've met them already, men and women.
Yeah. All extremely passionate about helping the youth.
Yeah.
Like no one's here for money. I'm assuming I'm assuming the little they do get paid is nothing compared to taking the leave off that they need to come to this course.
100%. So what I see is our own facility, mate, carrying on the legacy. Instead of touching about 500 children a year, 2,000, because it's needed. Our country needs it desperately. Okay. And my mentor's been able to give up their full-time jobs they want and come and do this full-time. That's it. Then that way I'm helping as many veterans as I can as possible, giving them employment and doing this for the passion. So win-win. And then helping from 500 to about 2,000 families a year, which would actually start to put a dent in this youth crime epidemic that we're facing at the moment, this mental health epidemic that we're facing at the moment, okay, because there's a lot of programs out there that claim they get great results but don't, okay? We are proof that we do, and we never went to the government asking for help. Yeah, the government needs us, as Jackie Lambie said on the Senate floor. We don't need the government, but they need us. They need us because we're getting results. We're helping veterans find purpose, helping children and families, okay? And we get tremendous results from breaking that tech addiction, from anxiety, depression, bringing this kid back, yeah, from a life of misery and despair, okay? And if you want a dent in this youth crime epidemic, you can't just go around arresting children. Yeah, that's the aftermath. Yeah, and I agree you need to have those harsh words.
What's the root cause of it?
What is it? 1 in 10 or 10 children a day are getting arrested down in Victoria at the moment, down in Melbourne.
Crazy.
Just got released in the media.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, 10 children a day. And we are one of the worst schools in the world for disruptive behaviour, like Australia is for disruptive behaviour. Yeah, now we're a first world country, I thought. Why are we the worst? Teachers are scared to go to school. That all needs to change. It needs to change rapidly.
Yeah. And I totally agree, and I love what you're doing, mate. And that's also why I wanted to come down. I wanted to come down and help you, get this out and tell your story a bit. And like I said, I think you have a fantastic story. You have what you're doing now as well is just, I love to see it. I love watching the shorts on social media. That's why I contacted Foxy. That's why I contacted yourself.
Yeah.
And yeah, look, I am looking forward, mate, to coming back. Hopefully when you do have a dedicated facility and spend a week with you guys and podcast you again maybe in a year's time.
Yeah, let's do part 2, mate.
And we go from there. So look, I have one mandatory question that I do ask all my guests.
Let's do it.
Looking back, if you could give your 18-year-old self just one bit of advice about life, what would it be?
Okay, it would be, don't worry about all the misery you're about to go through. It's just going to make you stronger, mate.
Great answer. Great answer. So simple and so sweet, and it's you.
Yeah.
That's the answer. That is you. Yeah. I have a very similar thing of what I would tell myself. I would look myself in the eye and just say, "Buckle up, buddy. You're in for a hell of a ride."
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It makes us who we are. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly right.
Beautiful.
Exactly right. Well, Matthew French, here's your podcast jumper.
Here's your Veteran Mentors jumper, mate.
Thank you very much.
Hey.
I'll put that on now, and all the kids can start calling me sir.
Yep, why not, mate? I'll put this on and I'll run away.
That's it. That's it. But look, mate, that's almost 2 hours. Like I said.
Wow, 2 hours felt like 10 minutes, brother.
Yeah, like I said, mate.
You're good at what you do.
Thank you. And look, thanks for telling me your story. Thanks for running me through the Afghanistan stuff. I know that's very, very touching to yourself and a lot of other veterans out there that know us and that were on that trip. So, and what you're doing now, mate, just keep working hard at it and keep grinding away and keep doing what you're doing. Obviously, you are putting a dent in this thing that is actually an epidemic of social media with kids, I believe, and an addiction to what I call the complaint boxes of the mobile phones. So stick at it, mate, and let's go have some dinner and enjoy the car ride tomorrow at 3 a.m. to drop me off at the airport.
Yeah, you prick. That was awesome. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And for more information, head over to our Instagram at 2 Worlds Collide Podcast. Take care.